little bit so that you have another couple of mats in front of you. And maybe we could put a couple of mats and cushions there just in case anyone arrives later. People stuck on the tube or something. It's really nice to see so many of you here. You never know this time. Full house, really empty house. Oh, it's your here. Oh, excellent. Good, thank you. So, is everybody comfortable? Nearly? You got what you need. There are blankets if it's beginning to feel a little bit cool. It's better that we have some air. So, big welcome to the London Buddhist Centre, especially if it's your first time or early times of you being here. And it's a great pleasure to lead this week and next week. So my name is Vandanajyoti. Actually, I've been coming here for half of my life, which is quite an extraordinary thing. Now, if I tell you how long I've been coming here, you'll know how old I am, but there you go. I've been coming here for 37 years, and on and off, in and out, because sometimes I'm working elsewhere, sometimes I'm doing different things, but it's a great pleasure now and again to dip back into the London Buddhist Centre. So it's a privilege to be here over this time with you. And I particularly love this time of year. It's that curious mixture of sort of nostalgia, tenderness, and deep symbolism. Because, of course, here we are just at the winter solstice. We're sitting in the dark time of the year. And there's something about knowing how important it is to go into the dark and find what it is there that we need to discover. So really that's what's at the back of my mind for these 2 weeks. And hence we've got lots and lots of light on the shrine to help us along, just in case we start feeling a little bit afraid of the dark. There isn't any reason to be afraid of this dark. It's actually the dark that we need in order to find what we need to know. Anyway, I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Let's start off by, in our customary fashion, saluting the shrine in call and response. So you repeat what I say or chant. Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Buddhaya.
Namo Dhammaya.
Namo Dhammaya.
Namo Sanghaya.
Namo Sanghaya.
Namo Namah.
Namo Namah.
So in the last few weeks, about 6 or 7 weeks, the team has been talking about the Bodhisattva path and introducing us to what the Bodhisattvas signify. And the Bodhisattvas are, there's a sort of Buddhist equivalent of angels, if you like. These are beings that are on the path towards enlightenment, and they dedicate their lives to the attainment of enlightenment for the benefit of all beings, and that of course includes us. So you can think about the bodhisattvas in many ways, but what I like to think of them as is enlightening beings. And enlightening beings are just like us. We're on a path of development, on a path of growth. We're moving towards greater understanding, greater wisdom, greater kindness, greater compassion. And I would imagine that probably every single person who's sitting here, and those of you who are online, you're here because that is important to you. It's important to you that you see yourself on a path of development, on a path of growth, on a path of transformation from where we are now to where we might be, what we are now to what we might become. But it's not just a developmental model alone. It's not just that we go from step to step or stage to stage along a kind of literal path. It's much, much more subtle than that, this spiritual journey. In a sense, you could say that we are already there. And that is what I want to look at during the next 2 weeks. In a sense, we are already there. We're already potentially enlightened beings. But of course, we are not manifesting that for various different reasons. So we're looking during this time together today and next Monday too, at what gets in the way. What's in the way of us manifesting that fantastic beauty, that sublime ideal? So more of that in a while, but just to get us to arrive, let's do a short meditation so we can settle into our experience right here, right now, today. So taking up your meditation posture, making sure you're comfortable, and that includes making sure that your hands are resting somewhere so that if you need another cushion or a blanket, make sure that your hands are resting there. I'll tell you why. Because actually that means that you can let go in your shoulders, and that means that your rib cage can start to function properly. Yeah, if you need another blanket or cushion, go and get it now. Don't feel bad about it. Just make sure you're really properly comfortable. But we'll only be sitting for 7 or 8 minutes to begin with. So as you find yourself settling into your meditation posture, feeling your body sitting here, and the weight of your body resting down through your sitting bones, onto the cushion, onto the floor, onto the mat. Try and make your back as long and straight as you can, so your posture is dignified and upright. That will also help your breathing to be relaxed and open. Noticing your hands at rest, not doing anything after working for you all day. Connecting with the weight again, the weight of your body resting on the support of the ground. And as you sit here, inviting yourself to relax any tension in your abdomen muscles. Noticing how often we hold tension there in that part of the body. As you let go in your abdomen, you may find that your breathing can become a little bit more centered, a bit deeper. You may find that you feel like yawning, that you feel like relaxing your jaw. You may feel that your shoulders have suddenly allowed you to see that they're tucked right up to your ears. Let's see if they can drop, your shoulders dropping away from your ears. So your neck is free. Your shoulders are relaxed. Your back is straight, dignified, upright. Noticing what's happening in your face. Is there any tension there around the eyebrows, the hairline? Can you relax the whole tissue of the face? Maybe allowing your eyes to close if they're not closed. Seeing if you can release any tension in the cheeks. Around your ears. Back of your jaw. The gentle, tender tissue at the front of the neck. The strong, supportive tissue at the back of the neck. Allowing your head to be balanced freely on the top of your spine, taking its place in the stars, you could say, directing up away from your seat, as though you yourself are a connecting rod of energy between the earth and the sky. Again, making sure that any tension in the abdomen is releasing. No need to grip on to any muscles in the torso, in the rib cage. Allowing yourself to spend a few minutes connecting with how you really are just sitting here. Nothing to do, nothing to achieve. Just noticing any feelings, allowing them to be what they are. Not striving to change them. Noticing if there are any thoughts present that keep returning. Maybe something you wish you'd done or wish you'd said or wish you hadn't done or said. Just noticing them too, giving them the kindness of your awareness. And then to finish, taking note of the fact that sitting here with your own experience, being present to yourself, acknowledging who and how you are right now, has its own quality of pleasure. Maybe a calm, undynamic kind of pleasure. But there is pleasure in having made the journey to be here this evening and to be in connection with yourself, no matter how happy, sad, irritated, calm, whatever your state of mind might be, just being in connection with yourself. It's tremendously enriching and important. So we'll sit in connection with ourselves for a couple of minutes to end this short introductory period of meditation. Returning to an awareness of yourself physically, the weight of your body resting on your seat, the upright nature of your spine, your head balanced, your hands released. And when you're ready, opening your eyes, coming back into the room. Thank you, Sangadarin. It's a bit hot. So now we are a bit more arrived, a bit more present, and just enjoying the light on the shrine, and taking inspiration from it if you can. And back to the theme of my session this evening. We're looking at the Bodhisattva path and the flowering of this myth that we've been talking about in the last 6 weeks in the class. How in this phase of Buddhism, which kind of followed on from the time of it's about 400 years after the death of the Buddha, people were beginning to forget the actual sensation of being with the Buddha. And things were getting a little bit dry, maybe a little bit formulaic. the followers of the Buddha and their followers and their followers and their disciples, etc., down through the generations, were desperately trying to hang on to what the Buddha had actually said. And in order to remember it, and of course remember this would have been an oral culture predominantly, things had become a little bit dry and perhaps a bit routine. And then we see this research of this kind of emergence of a fantastically creative, vibrant myth of the Mahayana, where the spirit of the life of the Buddha was what fascinated people. They saw the Buddha as a great teacher of fantastic kind of kindness, who understood the people who he met, who was able to help them, who could immediately see what was needed for somebody to become more in tune with their lives, to deal with what was happening to them, to be more able to stay with the experiences that they were having. And this is the Mahayana period of Buddhism, where we see the bodhisattvas emerging. And let's face it, we don't really know how that happened and when it happened. And we know what these images were, and we know the fantastically alive connection that people described with what seemed like real presences to them and also to us. But what was happening there was that people began to use their imaginations in a completely new way. And that's what's so inspiring for us, because actually what we need to do in order to practice more deeply is to start to use our imaginations in a completely new way. So this practice, this Buddhist practice that we're talking about here, being in the presence of the bodhisattvas, is a work of the imagination. And this is something that's tremendously important to me in my life, because as a musician and as a music lover, I absolutely need this. You know, it's like things get dry and formulaic in life. I know, I need to get back in touch with what really inspires me. So you're going to be thinking to yourselves, well, where do I find that? Where do I find that richness? Where do I find myself stepping out of the formulas and routines of my life into something much more rich, into something much more strange, perhaps? So how can I keep my life alive, as it were? How can I stop myself just falling into old repetitive habits of mind, custom? So in that work of the imagination, what we find is that kindness, wisdom, truth and beauty are the sort of standards that you keep wanting to return to time and time again. And the wonderful myth of the Bodhisattva centers around what we call the bodhicitta. And you'll remember from the talks that we've had in the last few weeks that the bodhicitta could be translated as, well, citta is heart-mind, and in Buddhism it's not just heart or mind, it's heart-mind together. Both conceptual and emotional, intellectual, feelingful, coming together in heart-mind, the citta. And bodhi is, we would translate it as enlightenment. So the enlightening heart-mind, and that's what we're really looking for. In a sense, you could say the enlightening heart-mind is our own true nature. But as I said before, our introductory meditation, what happens is that can sometimes be a bit occluded, a little bit covered over by what's happening in our lives. So there's a wonderful text by Padmasambhava called The Advice to the Three Fortunate Women that some of you may have studied. And in it, Padmasambhava, who's one of our great Buddhist teachers and leaders from way, way back, centuries ago, he says, Remember that realization is your true nature. What does that mean? That means it's actually your nature to be completely and utterly in the bodhicitta. That is what you really, really are. But it doesn't just happen like that. Things get in the way. Our intention may be a very, very positive one. Our intention may be to be kind, to be wise, to be present for our family and friends, to support each other, to do all the things that we want. And then suddenly something gets in the way. So we're going to be looking at that this week and next week. Through the teaching of the Buddha, so what the Buddha taught us about how to work with the mind, to clarify the mind. So we're going to set ourselves up now for a half-hour period of meditation, and during that time I may just add in a few thoughts, so it'll be a little bit more led than sometimes we have, just so that we can kind of begin to go a bit deeper on this journey of finding what is it that gets in the way of this very, very positive intention of kindness, wisdom, other regardingness that we would call the path of the Bodhisattva. So would you like to set yourselves up in meditation again? Make sure that you've got all the cushions and blankets you need to support your arms. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to be, I'll ring bells for the mindfulness of breathing. And we'll have the first two stages a little bit shorter, and then the third stage where, for those of us who are counting, we drop any kind of counting, any kind of structural support, and instead we focus on the nature of the breath in the body. The flow to and fro of the breath in the body. And I'll lead us through that when we get there. So coming back to a sense of being present to yourself, being connected with yourself, the most intimate way that you can be present or connected with yourself is to stay with your breath. The beauty of the breathing body. And rather than thinking of yourself having to breathe in any particular kind of way, see if you can notice the effect of the breath actually touching your body, how the breath manifests in you. It's as though you yourself are watching the breath. You're not doing anything. The breathing is happening through you. So taking time to imagine the breath just coming to you, not you doing it at all. There's your breathing body. It's absolutely you. It's enlivening every time you breathe in. It's as though you're breathing in the breath of life. Every time you breathe out, you're letting go of any tension in your lower abdomen. You're releasing any holding around the jaw, around the shoulders. And watching the in-breath enlivening, refreshing, inspiring, the inspiration of the in-breath. Mindfulness of breathing. allowing the breath to come and go easily, naturally, silently. Keeping the body still and quiet. Allowing your attention to rest on the coming and going of the breath, the vitality of the in-breath, the release of the out-breath. Taking a moment to check your posture, staying with the breath, but allowing yourself to be upright, your head directing up to the sky, your seat resting on the earth, and in between, spaciousness, clarity, as if you were observing the whole breathing process from just behind you, bringing your attention into the back, becoming fascinated and interested in the breath happening in your body. Stay with it. Allow yourself to become concentrated and involved. See the beauty of it. Keeping the body as still as you can. When the mind wanders, gently encourage it back to notice the breath in the body. Again, refreshing your attention, maybe moving back, awareness in the back of the body, seeing the whole body breathing. And if you'd like to, add in an awareness of the pleasure of this experience. The pleasure of sitting present and connected to yourself breathing. Calmly and patiently returning when the mind wanders to that quality of pleasure as the breath enters and leaves the body. I'm moving into the last stage of the mindfulness of breathing practice. Focusing your attention, the place where the breath enters and leaves the body. But keeping that breadth of awareness as well as the focus. as we bring the practice to an end, relaxing any efforts you've been making to stay with the breath. If you want to open your eyes and stay seated really still, allow your eyes to rest on the light on the shrine. In a relaxed way, review what happened in that meditation practice for you. What happened? How are you feeling? Anything you want to remember? Just resting in a relaxed way, enjoying the light. So thank you very much. Lovely to meditate with you. And thank you for a calm and focused atmosphere in the shrine room. So what that does, it gives us the possibility of being more reflective about our own experience. We create a focus for each other, a context for practice. And that's why it's so lovely when everyone is still and calm and focused like that. Because it means that we can all start to go a bit deeper in this search that we're involved in today. The search for, if you like, going into the dark place, but also finding the light within. And also finding what it is that stops us really deeply connecting with what we know to be our true nature, our higher self, our own beauty, our own light. So we'll be thinking a bit more about that after we've had a cup of tea. So thank you very much to the tea makers, and we'll be back in 20 minutes or so. You're welcome to stay here if you want to in the tea break. Oh, I just wanted to say that another thing that's happening on New Year's Eve, I'm giving a talk. So please come. There's a whole, look on the website, there's a lovely program starting at 7, I think, and going on until after midnight. So you'd be most welcome. So let's pick up where we left off. I'm going to read you something about the bodhicitta, which you will remember is the chitta means heart, mind, and bodhi means enlightening. So it's the sort of emergence of what the bodhisattva really loves. So this is what our teacher Bhante Sangharakshita says about the bodhicitta. And let's see if this inspires you, excites you, or delights you, or leaves you completely. No, it can't possibly do that. The bodhicitta represents the eruption within us of something transcendental, a profound spiritual experience that reorients our entire being. Those of whom the bodhicitta takes possession, in whom the bodhicitta arises, become bodhisattvas. Maybe eventually they become bodhisattvas. They live for the sake of enlightenment, but not just for themselves, but for all beings. So for me, this is the kind of totally perfect ideal. The other thing I love about bodhisattvas, they tell me that a bodhisattva always knows exactly what to do. So when they're faced with a dilemma or somebody around them is suffering in some way, they know exactly how to respond. They don't get enmeshed in reactivity and habit. They have a freshness of approach that means that whatever is required of the situation is what they intuitively do. Don't you think that would be marvellous? So sometimes you wish to goodness you hadn't said it, so they'd know to stay quiet. Sometimes you wish you'd had the courage to take a step towards someone because you can see what's going on and they need help and you could have done that, but you didn't do it. Sometimes you've marched straight into a situation and really you'd have been better to stay out. But the bodhisattva, the enlightening being, or the enlightened being, let's call it, to differentiate between them and us, would know exactly what to do. And I think that's real wisdom and real compassion in action. And that is what we're really talking about here. When Sanghadaram's talking about the 21-day meditation challenge, he's talking about how to work in meditation so that we move from the state of awareness that we are in right now to the closer to the potential that we all have for being a bodhisattva ourselves. Moving that little bit closer to being a being that can respond with that kind of creativity and absolute appropriateness in every situation. How marvellous that would be. So I just want one other little quote before I get down to business here. The Buddha describing the mind. This is what he said about the mind. Are you ready? Luminous, O monks, is the mind, but it is defiled by adventitious defilements. In other words, stuff covers over the luminosity of the mind. Now, it's not just a Buddha mind we're talking here when we talk about luminous is the mind, talking about your mind and mine. Mind itself, chitta, heart mind, is luminous, full of light. Luminous, O monks, is the mind. I just think this is so fantastic. Luminous, O monks, is the mind. But it is defiled by adventitious defilements. Now, just for those of you who don't know about what defiled means, it means messed up, covered all over, full of muck, defiled by adventitious defilements, adventitious stuff that happens, stuff that occurs. So in other words, the luminosity of the mind is enmired by things that crop up. Now, does that sound familiar? And then it says, the well-instructed disciples of the noble ones understand this. So what I'm trying to do today is to start to make sure that you're well-instructed so that you know how to work with the stuff that enmeshes, enmires your mind when it gets messed up like that. And let me tell you, everybody's does. So if you think, I've actually already got a luminous mind, well, lucky you. But most of us are still desperately groping around, trying to think, what on earth am I going to do about this? You know what? When I wake up in the morning, every day, I wake up in such a kind of snarly state. It's probably because, oh dear, do you need to know this? I'll tell you, I snore. So probably I don't sleep that well. So I'm probably like all night. So when I wake up in the morning, I haven't had a proper rest probably. You know, if I talk to doctors or anything about it, they're not at all interested. But that's beside the point. Don't digress, Vandanajyoti. The fact is, I wake up in the morning in a pretty bad mood, nearly every morning. And I know that I do that. But I used to just kind of get up and be grumpy and grouchy to my poor flatmate and, you know, kind of make things worse by acting from that place of enmired mind. Nowadays, I've learnt something, many years of practice, that the best thing I can do when I wake up is just wait a bit and remember my practice, because I've been meditating for 34 years. And I remember, I think, no, you need to apply yourself now. You need to take seriously the fact that this is a temporary mental event. It's just something that happens in the mind. You do not have to believe it. You do not have to act from it. You do not have to plaster it all over your poor flatmate. You could just wait a bit and preferably meditate. And by the end of the meditation, if you're lucky, something has shifted. Now, there was a point in our meditation in the first half where I said something that obviously hit home to some of you, because the atmosphere in the shrine room went sort of whoosh. Did anybody notice that? There was a period of complete calm, and it's like suddenly people were going, oh, they were sitting to attention. Did you notice? Well done, those of you did. And most of you are sitting there just looking at me and not nodding or anything, so maybe it's only me that noticed, and plus you, thank you for nodding. But, you know, there's ways in which we can kind of read the situation when we become more attuned, more refined, when we've started to work with the mind to address the fact that the adventitious defilements arise. So it's absolutely extraordinary. But the Buddha went to all the trouble of describing these adventitious defilements, and you'd be surprised to note, well, certainly in my experience, they're exactly the same now as they were then, 2,500 years ago. The same things seem to crop up in the human mind. And you will probably know very well what they are. But these things that arise, and we're going to go into them now. So this week I want to look at these what I call helpers that arise in the mind. They help us to learn to concentrate. And next week we're going to start to look at more about the existential, experiential aspects of being a person that also get in the way. But first of all, because you're all meditating hopefully every day, you need to be working in this way with these helpers. There are 5 of them. And the first one is craving. This is the first helper. So, when I sit down to meditate, especially if I am a little bit late, say like tomorrow morning, I'll probably be tired and I won't get up at 7 o'clock, I'll get up at 8 o'clock. And by that time, I'm kind of ready for my breakfast, really. But I make myself meditate first. And I'll be sitting there, and then all of a sudden, I wonder if there are any of those stewed plums left. I like that, stewed plums for breakfast. So it's like I'm not really focusing on my breathing. I'm not really thinking about positivity of emotion and the heart. I'm not really with the metta bhavana. I've allowed myself to get distracted by an adventitious defilement. In other words, I'm indulging my habits of mind and thinking about what I'm having for breakfast. Well, it's very important that when this arises, no matter what kind of craving it is, that you don't start to berate yourself. You don't say, oh no, I'm craving again. You think, there's craving. The Buddha said craving arises, and the Buddha was right. So I don't know, does that ring true to any of you in your experience? Do you know that feeling of wanting something? Would you mind telling me what sorts of things you crave, as long as they're not too rude? Yeah, anything at all? What sort of things crop up in your mind?
Food, very often.
Food.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that, isn't it? So often, what's happening when food comes up in the mind? You're a person of more or less my état. So what are we doing when we're craving food? Are we hungry?
No, usually I'm thinking about what I'm going to cook.
So you're going to thinking about what you're going to cook. You probably enjoy cooking, but behind the cooking or not cooking, breakfast or not breakfast, what's going on there in the mind? Can anybody?
Maybe we're chasing a positive sensation where this thing gave me positivity, it made me feel good in the past, and now my mind is trying to recapture that or remake it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're thinking, that was nice before, let's do that again. It's just the niceness of it, the pleasure of it, the kind of little positive stroke of it that we're after, much more than the stewed plums or what I'm going to cook. What else is going on? That's so important. What else goes on when we get some craving going on in the mind? It might be that we're after a pleasant sensation or a pleasant experience. What else?
We want to stop feeling bad.
You want to stop feeling bad.
Yeah.
Exactly. So something unpleasant is going on. We think, if I just had that, if I had a new washing machine, I'd be perfectly happy. Or whatever. Oh, I had such a sad experience of this just the other day. I had to buy a new phone. Well, I got a reconditioned Samsung. But into the phone shop came a young man who clearly didn't have an enormous amount of money. And he was showing the man in the phone shop, who's a really helpful techie, his brand new state-of-the-art iPhone. I don't know what number it is, but he said he'd spent £1,700 on it. And I just felt so sad because it was so clear that young man was trying to catch up in some way on the difficulties of his life. And, he said it was going to take him 3 years and 4 months to pay it off, by which time he'd have needed another new iPhone, I expect. But so he was compensating for something, I could really definitely see. And the guy, the techie man in the shop, said the same. He said, it's so sad when you see this happening, because the person is just mired in debt then as well. Not only do they have a difficult experience, but they also, have added another dimension. Anything else? So we've got chasing a pleasant thing we had in the past, getting out of an unpleasant thing that we got in the present. Anything else? I mean, I can think of another one, but come on, you give me another one. Somebody. Yeah.
something to do with establishing a narrative about your life.
Oh, that's interesting.
So you'll tell a story to yourself. Sometimes it's even painful, but if it's familiar, you'll want to keep repeating it.
So true. If it's familiar, you want to keep repeating. Do you know the story of the fish basket? It's one of my favourite Buddhist stories. She's this woman who sells fish right in the market, and for some reason she gets carried away at the end of the day and she misses her train home. I always think of it, I've been in Mumbai, and I don't know if you have. The other station is a really terrifying place. I imagine her kind of going home at the end of the day with her fish basket, but she's missed the train. Her friend who's a flower seller says, "Don't go home, just come and stay in my place." And she said, "Oh, that's really kind of you, thank you, because I want to come back first thing in the morning." And so they go to the flower seller's place, simple place where she lives, and the flower says, "Oh, you can sleep here, I'm sleeping here." And the fish seller lies down to sleep in the place where the flower seller keeps her flowers. And guess what? She can't sleep in the place because it's smelling of flowers. She manages to sleep when she sticks her head in her fish basket. Do you see? So, I mean, for her, maybe the smell of her fish basket was lovely. But in any case, it was, like you described, it's something she knew well that wasn't exactly pleasant, but it was familiar. And don't we all know that in life? So we're craving to get back to what we know. It's like we're sort of, sometimes we're like midgets, you know, we're minute in our sense of ourselves, and we're like tiny, tiny people. And in fact, you know, we're regal people, but we can't tolerate our potential. It's too scary. It requires courage. It just, you know. So really, when we meditate, these are the sorts of things that we're dealing with. It's not a simple matter. This here, we're talking about transformation at the highest level. And that's only the first of these 5 friends that I'm going to talk about, and I haven't got that much time, so I better move on. So the second one, the first one was craving. The second one, you won't be surprised, is ill will. Ill will is an interesting thing. Sometimes it's described as hatred, and hatred, I think, is a bit of a cop-out for many of us. We think, I don't do hatred. And like when we teach the metta bhavana practice, which most of you have learned, we get to the 4th stage where people say, now just think of a difficult person. And do you know, a lot of people say, I don't know anyone to put in the 4th stage of the metta bhavana. I don't have any difficult people. Do you find that surprising? It is surprising until you realise that many of us don't really reflect on the level of ill will that we have in our lives. So ill will includes very, very minor things like, you know, you say we were just going out now into the reception room and somebody pushed in front of us. You know, they might be making the tea or something, but there'd just be a little flash of, you know that feeling? And you go, oh, that's it, that's ill will. Even that much. And it all adds up to lack of positivity in experience. So what we're trying to do here is to notice, where does the ill will occur? So you were very good at coming up with examples of craving. Can you come up with examples of ill will? I mean, we could, if you like, talk to each other about it. Let's just stay as a whole group, if that's all right. You know, I love the way in the Monday class you break up and talk to each other. But, you know, if you're shy, don't worry. You can manage. But just think, where does ill will crop up for you? You don't have to say it, but just think. Where does it crop up? Does anybody drive here? Have you gentleman with the hat? Can you talk a little bit about that on the road?
Well, I wasn't thinking about driving, but yeah, when someone cuts you up or something, it can be very frustrating and you feel the ill will emerge very spontaneously.
or even if you're a bit late, like I always follow Google Maps all the time when I'm driving now. And coming here this evening, I did drive because I was in a particular sort of rush and, going home. Just the fact that it says it's going to take 48 minutes, but it took 54. That is ill will. It's just, what does it do in your body? Tom, what do you reckon about ill will? I know his name, that's why I'm asking. What does it do?
It can be a very useful teacher.
It can be a useful teacher.
Yes, but it's often not, is it? We get very tight. I was just thinking about that. I'm not a driver, but I'm a cyclist.
Ah.
And the number of people who are stepping out while staring at their phone. No one did it my way here tonight. But,
Yeah.
I often have to sort of shout out some helpful advice.
Whoa. Well, knowing Tom a little bit as I do, I think his helpful advice would be fairly abrasive, but helpful at the same time. So we've got this situation where, even we're trying to be helpful, or at least trying to avert some kind of an accident. It's just interesting where the edge comes in, and noticing that in yourself will have a strong effect on your practice. Okay, craving, hatred, or desire and aversion, any of those synonyms for craving and hatred that you want to think of. Those are the first two of my 5 friends that get in the way of a clarity of mind, of a luminosity of mind. So the third one was happening to me in the middle of last night because I was thinking about being here and teaching you. I'm thoroughly enjoying myself right now, by the way. But, the thought about it, thinking, oh my goodness, I have to get my thoughts together, and I'll be all woolly and will lack clarity of thought, and certainly there won't be much luminosity of mind, and they'll all be bored and they'll all fall asleep and it will be awful. What was going on there?
Doubt.
It was, what did somebody say?
Doubt.
Well, that comes later. This is just anxiety. This is... And it's restless as well. I didn't hardly sleep. I was kind of really giving myself a hard time. I'm not going to be able to do it. It's useless. Does anybody recognize any of that? A few nods. Any nods by the door?
Rumination.
You recognize it?
Yeah, rumination.
So your thoughts go on and on. Once you start, it's so difficult. It's so difficult. And it really is a measure of the effectiveness of our practice. It's a bit like its friend, the next one, which is sleepiness or sloth, they say traditionally, sloth. So number 3, restlessness and anxiety. Number 4, sloth and sleepiness. And lethargy. Both of them are kind of invidious problems because once you're in them, it's really hard to do anything about them. You see, it's a bit like depression. If you suffer from depression, when you're in a depressed state, it's the time when it's the most difficult thing to do anything about being in a depressed state. You sort of almost have to wait and get help, talk to friends, and maybe some medication, whatever, till you get out of the depressed state, and then you can do some useful work. So it's the same with anxiety and with lethargy when it's that sort of life avoidance, like I don't really think. I think this is more what when you were saying, Nika, doubt, that feeling like I can't actually do this, so I'm just going to stay under the duvet, that kind of feeling. That's the sloth and the lethargy one. And the anxiety is your mind is just steaming around doing what we call papancha, proliferating thought, rushing around and not actually getting anywhere with it, not finding the root, not finding a solution, not finding any peaceful core to the mind. Certainly not a lot of luminosity there. And then the last of my 5 friends is doubt. And this is doubt of a particular kind. It's doubt which refuses to commit. It's doubt which says, they're quite good, these Buddhists. They have nice flowers, you know, they make the shrine look nice. They they're obviously well-meaning. I think, well, I'm not going to actually join up. I'm not going to not that you have to join up, but let me hasten to add that I'm not going to take part in this thing. I'll just drop in when I feel like it. You know, when I haven't got anything better to do on a Monday, I'll go to the Monday class. Actually, that sitting on the fence kind of doubt in the practice, doubt in the teachers, doubt in the Dharma, doubt in the Buddha, doubt in yourself, doubt in your family, doubt in your conditions, doubt in everything. It's a kind of life-denying mediocrity of mind that is certainly not at all luminous. So, you know what they say, that wonderful quote that isn't by Goethe, but we all think it is by Goethe. Okay? You know, once you step out into the universe and you take the first brave step, the universe comes to meet you. Do you know that quote? I'll bring it next week if you like. You won't be here, Scott. I'll have to send it to you by email. But anyway, it's a fantastic quote because it's so true that when we allow ourselves to practice with these, my 5 friends, and take them on, seriously acknowledge that they are there, that they exist, that our minds, our consciousness, it has these elements within it, and we are prepared then to work with them, then we can start to make progress. The sort of progress I mean is the progress that allows us to move away from limiting habitual approaches to life to more luminosity of mind, more creativity of mind, more joy, more pleasure, less suffering. So that's of course what we want in our lives, isn't it? Okay, so just for a very short time, like a 5-minute thing, would you just turn to somebody next door to you? I'll tell you what I'd suggest you talk about with each other just for a while, because you've heard enough of me and I've been talking a lot. In your life, not just in your meditation, but in your life, where do you think you tend to go? You can see that there's 2 pairs, can't you? People tend towards craving or hatred, desire or aversion. And if it's a very sort of simplistic, in a way, analysis, so I'm not expecting you to sort of go into the psychology of it, but in your experience, as well as in your meditation, same thing, where would you say you tend to go in that pairing? And then restless and anxiety, or sloth and torpor, lethargy, sleepiness, avoidance, where do you tend to go in those pairs, in that pair? And also then, do you know that experience of not allowing yourself to make a decision, sitting around waiting, sitting on the fence, not making a commitment one way or the other? Do you know that in your experience? So just have a little chat about that. So you can get into groups of 2 or 3. So turn to the person next door and just have a little reflect out loud with them about whatever's going on there. 2 or 3. Anybody not found somebody, tell me.
Yeah.
So this is very, very principial teaching. It's a sort of basis of what do you do when you meditate? And what has that got to do with how you lead your life? It's very curious to note that, the amount of proportion of the time of our life that we actually sit on a meditation cushion is minute. And we wonder, like we've been steaming around being ever so busy, and then we sit down to meditate and we wonder why we're not concentrated. Well, it's clear, isn't it? So what I'm suggesting we need to be doing here is to be working with the mind at all times, in meditation and out of it. And we're really, as Buddhists, we're working with the mind in order to get more clarity, more responsiveness, more receptivity to each other, and therefore more kindness and wisdom, hopefully. And that's what we want, isn't it? So when you think about these 5, they're traditionally called the 5 hindrances, as many of you know. When you think about them in your life, when you're on your bike, when you're with your family, when you're having a shower, when you're having, doing the things you do in your job, travelling, eating, sleeping. Be aware those habits of mind are tremendously key, and they will occur in meditation too. So the invitation is to become more conscious of those things in meditation. When you're distracted in meditation, are you a person who just goes into ill will immediately? Oh, this is a not good meditation, I'm just distracted. Blah. That's just ill will. And for you to be able to kind of reflect on your experience and just say, oh, there's some ill will present. Full stop. It's like what I was saying when we were doing the mindfulness of breathing before the tea break. The breath is happening. You could even say it's very beautiful to notice that the breath is happening, but that's only, it's sort of secondary to the fact that you notice that the breath is happening. So can you notice in meditation, oh, some ill will is happening? And then the most wonderful thing can happen. You suddenly think, there's no ill will happening. Ah, that's really nice. Then you might think, oh, I want this to carry on. I want the ill will never to come back. In other words, you're now craving. Oh, craving is happening. Oh, well, craving was happening. Is craving still happening? Actually, no, it's not happening. No craving, no ill will. Possibility of concentration. It's like that. If you're busy, oh, these lovely, lovely analogies. I've just got time to tell you. This is the Buddha's full of natural, beautiful images from nature. Craving in the mind, he says, is like water where yellow, red, blue, green dye has been added. And you know what happens, like, if you'd ever did any painting and you've got yellow paint and red paint, blue, and in the pot, it's just brown. And after some time, it's brown in it. It's just messy, no colour. That's what the mind becomes. So craving is like that in the mind. It just messes everything up. All you need to do is think, craving is present. You don't have to give yourself a hard time or a nice time. Just notice. You notice the breath, now notice the craving. Oh, and then the Buddha says, when ill will is present, it's like water that's boiling, hissing, bubbling, with steam rising off the surface. Isn't that amazing? It's just like that. And I'll tell you, in the middle of the night, I was thinking about that image and thinking, it's just like that. Sort of volcanic almost. Lava. All that stuff. And the third one, sloth-top. It's like great waves whipped up by the wind. It's unsafe and unsettling. Like, when you're on a really heavy sea in a boat, the waves rising up like that, a horrible feeling of seasickness. well, that's a bit like what it's like, sloth and laziness and lethargy. Heavy, uncontrollable, unsettling. And then, where have I got to? Oh yeah, no, that whipped up by the wind, that's the restlessness anxiety. I'm just giving you the images for now. We'll talk more about this next time. Then the last one, when you're sort of stuck in, this is the sloth and torpor, choked by water weeds, blocked, flow not possible. That's the lethargy one. So the whipped up by the wind is the restlessness and anxiety, isn't it? Don't worry, I've told you this wrong. But the last one I think is great. Doubt, muddy, oozing dampness, no direction and no flow. So these sort of wonderful natural images from the world of observable nature. And that's what's so beautiful about the way that the Buddha describes these mental states. So we'll come back to that next time for those of you who are able to be here. And during the week, please do try and apply these things to your meditation. And notice them in your lives too. So I'd like to just do a little reading and then we'll finish up the evening with a mantra. And the mantra we're going to do is the mantra of the Bodhisattva, of wisdom. Because I think we could all do with a bit of wisdom. And this is a very dramatic Bodhisattva who holds a sword. And the sword at the tip of it is flaming. So we've got flame, we've got light. This Bodhisattva, Manjushri, is the colour of flame and is often associated with the flaming, rising sun. So bright, orange, red. Just think of that vivid, alive colour. And you can join in the mantra if you'd like to. So first of all the reading and then the mantra just for a couple of minutes. Just as when a lamp is put into a room, even 1,000 years of darkness immediately vanishes, and the lamp lights up the place. In the same way, when the lamp of aspiration for the bodhicitta enters the room of the mind of sentient beings, dark with ignorance, then immediately untold aeons of darkness caused by the obstruction of afflictions are dispelled, and the lamp produces the light of knowledge. Om Marapachanadi, 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 Om Om Marapachanadi. 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 Om Marapachanadi.
Om Marapachanadi. Om Marapachanadi. Om Marapachanadi. Om Marapachanadi.
So thank you very much. Those of you who are going on retreat, wishing you every blessing. May you find richness and wisdom. Those of you who are going to spend time with your family or friends, may you find patience, good humour and openness of mind. And those of you who are spending time alone, please do lots of meditation. See you next week, those of you who are able to come.
Thank you for your support. Thank you.
It's great. Look forward to meeting you again, and do pass my best wishes to Phil. Amazing that you are related to Vandanajyoti.
Bye.